Trish in Marlboro and myself and Jocelyn in Northborough, we had daybreak for 3 days of the week. So people could go to Northborough on Tuesday, Marlboro on Wednesday, and Hudson on Thursday. So caregivers were given the option of having that social day program 3 days a week if they wished, which we all felt like that was a great outcome of doing our dementia work in general.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So the idea of having the Daybreak program came about as the collaboration with the other COA directors regionally, and Janice in particular in her leadership. So there were no adult day programs at your center before dementia.
Not in Northborough, no.
So how did you resource it? Like, how did you find programming space, staff to go from like really not having anything like that to having it 3 times a week?
Yeah, and the 3 times a week was once in Northborough, once in Hudson,
so
once in Marlborough. Yeah. Okay. So, we were fortunate because we had moved into a new senior center in 2010, and so we had the space for it. We used kind of the biggest room that we had as far as our classrooms. It was directly across the hall from a companion toilet, and so they used that quite a bit. And then I've talked about the bistro a little bit. It was a little restaurant that was that operates within the senior center, and so we actually made kind of a special menu for those folks, and our bistro staff. I would say all the staff was really very much behind this whole initiative. And so, Vicki, made a special menu for them, and then they would actually serve it down in their space. So they didn't have to come into, the bistro, which was a pretty bustling place. And so they chose to have it there. And then, Christine, who was the staff person, she worked at Northborough and at Marlborough. Of course, Janice already had staff that was in Hudson. And so, they would get entertainment and things like that to come in. And so it was really, I'd like to say that was kind of one of my favorite things that happened in Northborough while I was there. So having had a mother that had dementia, I thought this is something that I would have wanted to be available to me, when my mom was going through that.
So just kind of interpreting back that, like, if you have limited resources to do dementia-friendly work, having to choose, you found this program to be more impactful potentially than like a once-a-month memory cafe. So that's where the COA went with their resources and their energy, and the co-chair was able to kind of run with the memory cafe, but you didn't devote the resources to that specifically.
Yeah, we didn't have those resources we only had 3 full-time staff, at the senior center, and it was a pretty busy place at the time. So we didn't have resources to send to the library. There was something else I was going to say about that as well.
But if you had grant funding, like if the grant had come through, then maybe you would have built that capacity to be able to help partner with that more.
Right. And we were fortunate because we got additional grant money after that, to help all 3 towns continue Daybreak. So.
Got it. And did that help support Christine's time on it as the shared staff?
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next section, which we're going to ask a little bit about the leadership and the action team a little more specifically.
Wait, Claire, did you want to ask about that third bucket, the built environment?
Oh, I thought we talked about the transportation, but I can reshare.
Maybe just anything else around making physical spaces or infrastructure, signage, any other kind of strategic work when the action team, especially during that initial period, did in that space?
So you're asking about the space that we actually put Daybreak into the senior center?
Well, so it could be your own physical plant, but it could be like helping the other businesses or the library or other public spaces in the community be more accessible to people with dementia. We haven't heard a lot of examples of this in other interviews, so there's no pressure to come up with something. I want to make sure we're not missing anything.
I mean, I think, I don't remember that anything developed in that area. So there's talk about simplifying menus. I mean, nothing that came directly, there's talk about that issue, but I don't remember us taking action on one of those items.
Yeah, and I think some of that suggestions for staff at businesses, that was part of that packet that the police helped us hand out. So those had some things that you might see in folks that have dementia, and ways to deal with that, but nothing about the physical building.
Yeah.
Can I ask just one more follow-up before we go to the next section? With the Daybreak, is that something that, like regardless of whether future grants come in or don't come in, that you feel like is going to be sustained at the center, or is it really dependent on continued external or allocation of internal funding?
That I can't answer.
I wouldn't say, I mean, I think that the senior center commitment to it is very strong. It's been, there's so oftentimes the other resources in the community are taxed as well. And so, it's really nice to be able to kind of bridge that with, Daybreak. But, so I think we as a department feel very strongly about it, but I don't know that without grant money, we'd be able to maintain it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just something that we talked about a little prior to this about the Daybreak kind of versus the Memory Cafe. Of course, they're very different models, and Daybreak, which we thought was very important, that gave the caregiver a break. Those 3 hours that their loved one was at Daybreak, and with the Memory Cafe, that model calls for, a caregiver to come along with. So again, two very different models, but I think that we felt more comfortable with Daybreak and felt that it was going to be more meaningful for both the participant. We wanted to make sure that it was, not a babysitting thing. I mean, there was always an activity. They used music, they did exercise, so there was a lot of activity and eating lunch together.
Yeah, it's such a nice thing. I mean, I think you have to see it to really get the appreciation. Yeah. But when somebody new comes in, very often, another participant, and Christina and her volunteer encourage it, will take that person on, show them where to sit or sit near me or, something of that nature. So, I think each person that comes really has an ownership in the group. It's, it's a short-term fix for the situation, but it's really impactful.
It is. And the other outgrowths to that, I think Trish may have seen it a lot more in Marlboro, but the caregivers themselves bonded. So, they might sit, over at the lounge area in Marlboro